Am I the asshole for kicking out a very vocal child-free flatmate after my wife got pregnant? Basically my wife and I, 29M, 24F, bought our own house a couple of years ago, and got 2 flatmates in to help pay the mortgage. 2 bedrooms plus en-suite for us to use, 1 bedroom each plus shared bathroom for the 2 flatmates. One flatmate, Alex, pretty much keeps to herself. The other one, Caitlin, 32F, is quite strongly opinionated and much more social. Caitlin is also child-free and occasionally very vocal about it, as in, it's not constant, but when something child-related comes up she will interject without fail. Anyway, wife and I were finally successful in conceiving and decided to tell both of our flatmates 3 months into the pregnancy. We chose 3 months as we didn't want to announce it to anyone too early in case of a miscarriage, but also wanted to give flatmates plenty of time to find somewhere else if they, understandably, didn't want to live with a newborn. In the end, both said they wanted to stay flatting with us as the location is good and the house is a new build. Most houses in my country are cold and damp turn-of-the-century wooden cottages. Anyway, almost immediately after this Caitlin begins making snide remarks about our soon-to-be child. Things like she should get a discount on rent for putting up with a baby, she's not going to get any sleep with a baby in the house, we should have told them we were trying, etc. At first my wife just brushed these off, though I did have a word with Caitlin that they're not appreciated. Since then the snide remarks became more frequent and rude, e.g., calling us selfish for bringing a child into the world, saying our social lives are going to be over, etc. After a couple months of this, I decided that I didn't want to put up with this kind of negativity in what will be a very stressful, but also special, time of my life. I consulted with my wife and with her support have decided to kick Caitlin out of our house. As a flatmate without a formal signed rental agreement she actually has no tenancy rights in my country, though I still opted to give her a month to find a new place as a sign of good faith. Caitlin is throwing a hissy fit saying I'm being unfair. That since she pays rent she should have a say in the direction of the household, and that we were selfish for having a kid without even telling flatmates. Alex is on the fence though has expressed that I'm being a bit unfair to Caitlin. Wife as I said fully supports me though she's less annoyed by her behavior than myself if I'm being honest. So yeah, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your peace of mind in your house comes first, and she sounds insufferable. Yeet her. There are 2 types of child-free people. One just doesn't wish to have children, but they accept that children are a part of life and usually enjoy interacting with kids. The second type hates children, thinks they shouldn't exist, and makes everyone around them miserable. Your flatmate is the latter. If she stayed she would get even more obnoxious after the baby arrives. I mean, how dare she say you should consult her about your family planning? Kick her out in good conscience. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for refusing to take my Sil on a romantic getaway? I, F28, have been friends with Brittany, F28, since we were about 5 or 6, and we are very close to this day. As part of having a friendship with me, she was around my brother, M, would be 30, quite a lot as children, and their romance blossomed as teenagers. They were married 5 years ago. Unfortunately, my brother passed 2 years ago in a tragic accident and left behind a mountain of debt for Brittany. She was 8 months pregnant at the time, and ended up moving in with my parents. Her and her daughter, Lilac, 2F, live with my parents to this day, and the family alternate watching Lilac so Brittany can get her degree. Everyone has really rallied around Brittany in such a trying time. For Christmas, my husband, M30, bought an all-inclusive trip for him and I to explore Paris and have a romantic getaway. I have always had France on my wish list, and I am so grateful to him for such a wonderful gift. We leave in February for 2 weeks, and it is honestly a dream come true. I told my parents about the gift, and they then told Brittany, who called me in floods of tears asking that I take her instead of my husband. She said that she will never be able to experience a romantic getaway like that with her own husband, and that we, my husband and I, could just go again at another time. She said she gave up everything to raise Lilac and she would love for us to have a girls' trip like we did when we were younger. I told Brittany that that was not possible. This was a gift from my husband to me and I fully expected to have a romantic getaway with him. Brittany told me that I was punishing her for being a widow, and that it was unfair I would have a love affair in Paris while she cried at my brother's grave. My husband thinks she is trying to make me feel guilty, but said he would step out of the trip if I would like to take Brittany. The thing is that I want to go with my husband, But my parents have since called to tell me that they would watch Lilac and that I should not rub my happy marriage in Brittany's face. My mom told me I would be selfish to leave a grieving widow over Valentine's Day. Am I being an aw? Not the asshole. That's such an unreasonable request, and frankly, if that's the way she feels, she should be going for therapy. You're not throwing your marriage in her face. You're celebrating your marriage between you and your husband. My husband, M30, bought an all-inclusive trip for him and I take her instead of my husband. You would be a big asshole if you kick out your husband, who paid the trip, out for her. And she is an asshole for even asking this. My parents have since called to tell me that they would watch Lilac and that I should not rub my happy marriage in Brittany's face. I told my parents about the gift, and they then told Brittany. They rubbed it in her face, not you. They made this drama. Clear, not the asshole for you. Not the asshole. Tell your parents to take her and Lilac on a trip if they feel sorry for her. Am I the asshole for cutting my mom's allowance to pay for daycare when she couldn't babysit for me? Throwaway for anonymity. Last year my husband, 35M, and I, 34F, had our first, and last, child. We were fortunate enough to be able to stay at home with him for almost a year by staggering our parental leave and vacations, but now that time has run out and we must return to work. I asked my mother, 56F, if she would be available to watch him during the week and she said no. Fair enough. That's her prerogative. My husband and I researched daycares in the areas where we work and settled on one that came highly recommended. It was expensive though, and that meant cutting down on expenses like the monthly allowance that we'd been giving my mother. A bit of background to this. My parents were married for 28 years before my father decided that he wanted someone younger and sexier than my mother. For all of those 28 years my mother had been a SOM then SAHW. With my father leaving, she was now meant to survive somehow in a world where she had never really worked, because when they got married my father didn't want her to end. Because she was raised in a traditional, religious family, she did what the head of household wanted. I'm not even going to go into that man's hypocrisy. Either way, he's gone, and even though she got some alimony, she didn't press for as much as she should have, again that religious conditioning, and she's struggling. My husband and I have been supplementing my mother's income to a hefty amount every month, which was not an issue until we had to put baby into daycare and found out just how expensive that was in a VHCOL area. In light of that, we told her that we would need to cut her allowance in half. We were not planning to start immediately but would take the financial hit for 3 months to give her time to adjust and move things around. She got upset and told us that we were punishing her for saying no. I told her that was not the case, but it is hard to maintain 2 households virtually by ourselves if we had to pay an exorbitant amount of our salaries to daycare every month for the foreseeable future. She was still angry and asked us to leave. Later my sister called us upset that we were abandoning mom, and making her struggle, just because she wouldn't do our bidding. So I suggested to her that she increase how much she was helping, considering she still lives at home. She called me a fucking bitch and hung up on me. So Reddit hive mind, am I really the asshole here? ETA. I wanted to answer some recurring questions here. My sister's ability to help is limited and sporadic because she struggles with mental illness. It got much worse in recent years and we're working to get her on disability, but that is a process. I guess that's why I feel bad about the comment I made to my sister, because it was a moment of lashing out when I know that she's in a tough spot through no fault of her own. As for my mom, I will work with her to make sure that she can go back to work, especially given my sister's challenges. My mother is neither lazy nor a leech. Unfortunately, she's been beaten down by being raised in a traditional culture and having it drilled into her what the duty of a wife is. She was then betrayed by everyone when her husband left. Not the asshole. You're not punishing her for saying no. You were being exceedingly generous to give your mother an allowance in the first place, but it's not your responsibility. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. And you're still being exceedingly generous to give her half. And if your sister isn't paying at least half of your mom's household expenses, mortgage, food, utilities, etc., then she's got nothing to say in the matter. Not the asshole, you have a small family to take care of. Your mom, at 56, still has plenty of time in which to work. While she might not get a high-paying job, she could still get something unskilled, if she chose. Many employers take into account things like, I spent my life raising my kids. That said, knowing nothing else about your sister's situation, it's hard to make a call on her behavior. Am I the asshole for not wanting to go to my sister's NY's party after she overshadowed my engagement? So I'm a guy and I recently proposed to my fiancée about midway through December. We agreed to announce the engagement at the family Christmas party. My sister and her husband, who are both a couple years older than me, are also there. My sister and I have generally always gotten along, although her husband can tend to come off as a little rude at times, but he's never outright been a dick. So we do a little gift exchange, and at the end of it, my fiancé and I decide to make our announcement. So I say my piece, and everyone's excited about it. It was a nice moment that I was proud to have. Then my sister stands and holds up an unopened gift for our mother. Mom opens it, and it's a framed ultrasound image showing that my sister is pregnant, about a month along. It's a happy moment and I was happy to share in it. But after that, the pregnancy was all anyone talked about for the rest of the day, and the days after that. It was like they had completely forgotten about my fiancé and I being engaged. I felt like my fiancé had been cast aside. I didn't want to cause a scene at the party, because I was happy for my sister. Then every day of the following week, all anyone wanted to talk about was the baby. Finally, New Year's Eve came along. The party we have for that switches hosts every year, and it's my sister's house this time. My fiancée didn't want to go to that party because she felt uncomfortable. So I called them, and my brother-in-law answers. He asked me what was up, and I told him we weren't going to be able to make it. He tried to change my mind, saying, "You and your girlfriend can come along." Like he had forgotten, or hadn't even acknowledged that we were engaged. I reminded him of our engagement, to which he said he couldn't have known since everyone was so excited about the baby. I hung up on him then, and tried to just move on from it. Then my sister called and asked me why I was upset about her baby. I told her I wasn't upset about it. I said it hurt when our family seemed to care more about her baby to the point that my fiancé and I being engaged may as well have not happened because no one acknowledged it. She told me to grow up, and said it was selfish of me to avoid coming to a party because I was jealous of her happiness. I said that it wasn't that I was jealous, like I said I'm happy for her that she's having a baby. But while she's taking a step in her life, I'm also taking a step in my own life. I'm engaged to a woman that I love and that I am prepared to spend the rest of my life with, and it feels like no one has acknowledged or respected that. Afterwards, she said I was being dramatic and that people would be more than happy to care about it when the wedding happened. Then she said I should quit whining and come to the party. I told her that I didn't want to go to a party hosted by someone who wouldn't be as happy for me as I am for her, and I hung up. Edit. My anger was most definitely misplaced in this situation. It isn't my sister's fault that things happened how they did, and I should have handled the situation better. Edit 2. Just so new people are aware. I have called my sister and we've both apologized to each other. I'm going to see her this weekend, so everything is going well. Info. How were you upstaged when you had no clue that your sister was going to announce a pregnancy and no one knew you were engaged? You are the asshole. Your sister made no effort to overshadow your engagement. She had the framed ultrasound wrapped up as a gift before you even made your announcement in front of the family. The overshadowing was just your family's naturally greater excitement over the pregnancy. You've got no right to be salty over this. Grow up and be happy for your sister.